I'm gonna try to get. Hey, folks, I'm seeing people's names. Hi, hey, everybody. I can't type that fast. Goodness. Okay, so let me see if I can get Joey up here. This is Robert Milazzo of Assembly, and I am gonna get Joey. How's that? Okay, Joey. I'm gonna find him. It is 4 o'clock on the button. Musicians can be late. this is this is not new news. Oh, that's very cool. This is neat, by the way. Okay, let me see. Oh, there he is. I think I see Joey. Hey, stranger. How are you?
I'm good, Robert. How are you?
I'm well, man. Can you hear me okay?
I can. You sound great.
You sound amazing. Hold on one second. This is the hippest thing I've ever done, man. I promise.
Yeah, I was hoping that would be the case.
You look amazing. How are you, man?
I just took my first shower in 7 days. I feel really good. How about you?
I haven't showered in the last 2 months. What is that like when the water hits when the water hits you?
It feels great. It feels so good.
It's an odd thing. I remember I was living in New York. We have so much to get to. My name is Robert Milazzo. I am the creator and producer and host of Assembly. This debut season of Assembly, you don't have to be clapping. The guest never has to clap. We have to clap for. We've had amazing guests this first season, and I say guests because this has been a well-rounded look, and I want to talk explicitly with one of the kindest voices that I encountered. And it's been nice to continue that connection and that friendship. We are at the Consequence of Sound Instagram Live. I'm not going to speak for Joey. I'm a bit of a Luddite. So if I can't wave or hit a heart or those things, I apologize. I am so honored to be here today to put a little bit of a coda, a kind of new age coda on the first season. A few things have happened since I saw him, and I want to work backwards. Please welcome to, let's call it the coda for this first season of Assembly, Mr. Joey Burns. Hey, Joey, how are you, man?
I'm very good, and it's great to be here with you, Robert.
I have this in my blood, so tell me your name and what do you do?
Okay, my name is Joey Burns. I play guitar and I sing on occasion, and I help other people create music.
That was one of my
How's that?
favorite pieces. No, it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite pieces to listen to because it sounds so obvious when someone says they help, but you are truly an extra set of hands for so many people. And I want to get to that, but I want to work in reverse a little bit. I remember living in New York around 9/11, and I'm not here to equate anything, but I'll say one thing and then you could take it away. This idea of tone was really interesting. Like, when could we laugh again? When could we talk freely again? This is a new age, but when I see you, I smile, but obviously there's so much going on now. So let me start with the obvious. How are you now? And what are you doing now?
I'm okay. How are you? Are you doing okay?
I am. We can get to that and all
Yeah.
sorts of boring topics, but the world has changed since I saw you, since I spoke to you, and it changes on a daily basis. That mantra of one day at a time is no longer reserved for one group; it's for every one of us. What has it been like living in this kind of new present? Are you more present? I mean, you're a present guy, but what's it been like for you?
It's work. I think like anything, I'm grateful for a lot, but I'm taking this opportunity to do as much work here at home with myself and family and my community. I've helped out a couple organizations here in Arizona, local Arizona Business First, the Rialto Theater, just whatever I can to pitch in to help out. And I'm taking this time just to kind of take stock and, of course, be grateful. And, we stopped listening to the news because of our daughters. We're just trying to be sensitive to information that's coming through that might be a little bit uh, heavy and and continuous.
Yeah. Well, tell me, there's so many parts to this, and one thing about the show Assembly is how many parts life has. And it's funny, you don't realize how many decisions you have to make until you have to make them. And one thing we're all going through is all the decisions. Tell me a little bit about the current decisions before we go back a little bit. And these amazing, I'm going to talk about the three beautiful women in your life, young ladies, and who are on the show Assembly. We heard from them, but tell me how the twins are doing and how your amazing wife is doing.
They're doing great. They're busy right now. We're spring cleaning. The girls are finishing their last week of school online, and we try to, play as often as we can. Just again, trying to not get too serious with everything that's happening around the world, but just try to get creative. We're doing a lot of cooking.
One of my favorite talks with you during Assembly was how you connect and want to marry music and cooking.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad, man. You'd be cool to have around the kitchen. And
I tell you, more rad is John Convertino and Sam Beam. Both really great. They have a great sensitivity for cooking and great taste. So.
John is a bit of a foodie. We would always talk a little bit about food before we got down to real stuff. And Sam has actually had me over for dinner. Super ingredient friendly. We have questions from your fans, and I want to get to them because I want them to hang on as long as possible. We're going to be with you for the next half hour. I want to start in reverse with the show Assembly a little bit. When we've talked a lot about me following you and all that stuff, but when you heard the show, I've never really talked to you about this. You've been such a great supporter of the show. I know it sounds crazy and small, but like retweeting things, I mean, it's huge. You know how it is when you're starting something. When you heard some of the episodes, tell me, and you could be honest, what was your impression? Was it different? And it's not about better or worse, but like, was it different than you heard? What were some of the initial sensations of hearing the show that we kind of worked on?
Well, I liked it. I mean, I love the pace. I love your voice. I love all the edits. Whoever's helping you out with that.
You're staring at that editor.
No, really, really good. I mean, it's quick and it keeps you moving, and there's enough sort of perspective of where the people are. You do a good job of narrating and kind of painting the scene, so to speak. I like the music as well. I got that song stuck in my head a lot. Thank you very much.
Take a number.
Right.
And I wasn't exactly, you're very kind and not to interrupt, but I wasn't fishing. I just want people to hear this and not think I'm fishing. I'm more because it's one of those things. It's like an actor in a movie. You never know. Oh, wow, that's what they ended up doing with my part. Was anything more or less different in the sense of I tried to get as many voices in there and respect your space? Did you feel there was a balance that was interesting? And did you hear voices that kind of checked an interesting box for you?
Oh, I mean, the fact that you could talk to all of the NPR crew, that was pretty awesome. I loved hearing all the anecdotes, from not just one perspective of musician or crew, but everyone, kind of in that wake of a band coming through town. You did a good job.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And I said this to you privately. Things are only as strong as the people involved. I mean, I can put a microphone up in the air, but it doesn't work unless someone can complement that action. I want to talk a little bit about this series more, also in terms of the number of things that go into a life, because we're living in a time now where a lot of those things are out of your life. And we've talked a little bit when we were together about life on the road and its charisma. Has this moment of time with COVID and Corona made you think about life on the road differently? And if so, how or how not, I guess?
Not really. I feel like it won't really sink in until we're actually traveling. And yesterday was the first day that I went out and I did a recording session with two friends, and we stayed, distant, and we had our masks on, and that's when it started sinking in, right? Everyone can try to guess or assume or try to picture what it's going to look like, but no one really knows. So it's just a wait and see. And I think being as a musician, I feel like it's just going to take a long time. It's going to
Yeah.
take a long time. And nobody really knows, and everyone's going to try different things, and that's going to be part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been on the road a while. It's almost funny. The road is on you. You know, it's one of
Mhm.
those. It's like when you're not watching TV, the TV is watching you. Do you, if you step back, and one of the things Assembly tried to do is step back and look at the things that are involved. Is there a cost, and is there a cost for a musician in being in touch with that? Like in the sense of the series I try to cover a lot of ground, but I also know there's a sanctity in the middle of it. Do you think that's an interesting balance to kind of preserve a tone? One of your favorite words. I love how many different
Yeah,
usages you had of tone, like a solitary tone. And do you think musicians have a tone that's only theirs when they're in a group setting?
for sure. I think it's really unique. It has to do with everybody, involved, and not just the musicians themselves, but everyone who's around them, especially the crew. And that sort of relationship really says a lot about what happens both on stage and on the tour, but every stop along the way with promoters and venues, hotels, restaurants for sure. And I think that those people who really enjoy being together and being on the road and experiencing new things and people, they they have a different vibe that they put off or tone. As far as working with you and having someone document, I mean, I've traveled with people before that have done either video or photos, and they become like you, part of the family. And it was and so it was really interesting to see where your project wound up and being able to listen to it. I really enjoyed kind of feeling like I was on the outside looking in, and because I'm not always privy to people's thoughts or conversations, especially with certain questions. So I thought it was really engaging, and I think in regards to this idea of tone, it and it changes. On the road, there are days when there is no tone,
Yeah.
and needs space. I mean, on days off, some tours I've been on, where like the first day off, everyone is together, right?
Mm.
Doing activity, eating together. Hey, what are we going to do next? Asking those questions. But there are times when you're on tour when everyone just needs to be alone.
You know, it's funny, if I had a budget, and I don't mean this in a funny way, I mean it in a kind of introspective way. I would have liked to spend a week as a group before we recorded, and in a way, going back and thinking of my process a little bit before we get to some fan questions. I wouldn't even have recorded the first day, like just to be in the room with you, because there is
Mm.
that space, and you don't want to be that guy. Everyone was so gracious, and you kind of spoiled me about it. But there is that ropes course you have to do, which can be
Mhm.
really interesting, like before you get to it. One of the things, and I got feedback on from the show, was hearing from like Jacob and Rob and Sebastian, who never met a microphone he didn't like, and I say that in a great way. Uh, and has a it has a great radio voice, man. I mean,
He is he's outstanding, really, in all that he touches.
yeah, it's a
I
great group.
loved,
Say that
I
again. I'm
loved
sorry.
hearing Rob's story. No, I loved hearing Rob's story of being in New York and Brooklyn. That was really touching. And he really goes deep with family, and so whenever they're around, they come out and they spend a lot of time together, and he wants to introduce them to everybody. With Sebastian's mom, I mean, we just celebrated Mother's Day, right, here in North
Right,
America,
right.
and I'll never forget meeting his mom. I mean, her eyes are a lot like Sebastian's. Just you never forget them, and she was so sweet, and she hung out for the whole sound check, and I really enjoyed seeing him with his family and especially his mother. And that same goes for everyone else. Like Ian's parents were there that day. There were a lot of people whose families were there. Hi, Genevieve.
Sam's dad showed up.
Sam's dad, mom coming out, and sister and brother-in-law, and his nieces. Like you know all those little moments along the way were fantastic. Yeah, Sam's dad was there at the show you were at.
Right, the North
in
Carolina. Well, talk a
yeah.
little bit about your girls need their own series, by the way. If I hadn't mentioned that to you, and your wife needs a plaque
Tell them.
somewhere. Yeah, no, please. I don't know if you want to tell them because they may never let you hear the end of it. What was it like? Not to put you on the spot, but I guess that's what Instagram Live is all about. The spot. What was it like hearing your daughters? Because I thought they actually, it wasn't just happy playtime with the microphone. They had some really rich thoughts about you being on the road, and also hearing Nova, who is
Yeah.
close to you, obviously. What was it like hearing them?
I really appreciate hearing their voices and just getting their feedback without me standing right there. Of course, it's great, and for sure, I there is a lot to me coming home and then having this reintroduction into what is a home without me in it. And
Mm.
I go away a lot, so there is a bit of a period of transition, leaving and returning. And so it was nice to kind of get this audio snapshot and to hear everyone and their thoughts and yeah, I mean that trip, especially going to Brooklyn, was really special because that was the first time that the girls got to go to New York and stay up all night and see a show. And then when I don't know if I told you this, but when we came back after the show, Twyla was up reading her Harry Potter book. I'm like, Twyla, I totally identify with you. You're buzzed and you want to stay up. You're awake, but we have to go to bed. At least try. So and I love the interaction between the girls and everyone involved. That was really special.
Well, when I don't have favorite moments, as you probably obviously you have favorite songs, but it's like, but the moment where you told me they're probably asleep right now. Yeah, I guess they're asleep, and then we hear them after the show. They're not asleep, Dad. And one thing I think audio could never really capture, and I'll say this as if he's not here, is Joey was always kind of the last guy to leave the stage because one thing I wanted to portray in the series is how active you guys are in the setting up, but you're also like you love to be in that process. It seems like literally the assembling and the tearing it down, like being there. You don't kind of run away and hide. You may not be conscious of that, but does that occur to you, like being there after the show around the crew? Is that kind of an important moment for you to be there to finish what you started?
Yeah, as probably a lot of people, especially my friends in Europe, know. After the show, I love getting to hang out with whoever's hanging out. And the European venues really make that possible. Maybe there's like a patio or a beer garden, or I mean, I'll never forget getting to hang out at the Acropolis in this ancient amphitheater, and people who had come from other parts of Europe to see the show in Athens, Greece. We all just kind of got to hang out together, as well as some of the local crew, and just to kind of get a sense of that energy. And it really is energy. We go into this empty room or space, and we hold light, we hold energy, and we bring it together, and then we kind of do what we do. And then it's still kind of vibrating there in that space. And it's nice to tap into that and share it with others. I love that.
We're going to get to questions in 60 seconds, I promise, IG fans, Joey Burns fans. But, this idea of going back to what we're going through now, have you felt more like you're waiting for something or sitting in a space? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like when your life is plotted out, and we'll use the summer as an example. I know there were concert dates on the books for June, July, and those are going to be pushed. What is that feeling like? Can you let go, or are you like, is half an eye looking towards getting back together again and again with Sam and John and all the guys?
I never closed the door. And, I was even just thinking like, oh, it'd be fun to send some tracks to Sam or whomever, Andrew, and just to see like, hey, maybe they could play on something right now. And I will. I mean, at some point, I always do, especially with Sam. It's so much fun to send him a song and see what he comes up with, whether it's vocally or with percussion and parts. He's got a lot up his sleeve.
I'm
And
going
it's
to make a note of that.
yeah, and so yeah, there is a lot of waiting that occurs when you're traveling or even just playing music. I mean, I had to wait here today, and I was just like, oh my gosh, 10 minutes feels like a half an hour, and but so yeah, that's one of the things you have to deal with is how time affects you and what you're going to do with it. But yeah, once you're at the venue and you're performing and then done, you're just kind of sitting there. So it was very meditational in a way, just to kind of hang out. Everyone usually loves to kind of just chat, and it's your opportunity to talk amongst each other, your band and
Mm.
crew, or family and friends. That's it's a great that for me. That's a great kind of arc of a day.
Yeah, it's interesting. These are new feelings. I mean, it's Rorschachtian. What could be loneliness, what could be a meditation to someone, could be a loneliness to someone
Mhm.
else. I think we're literally in a time you can't compare. But I wanna jump into a couple of fan questions. People who had sent some notes before, and I'm seeing all the messages fly by. I am not sophisticated enough to thank you and say how cool it is. I see a lot of greetings from Europe.
Yeah,
And I'm sure Joey is mentally there and will physically be there sooner than you know it. But let me look at some questions here, and I'm going to
yeah,
try to read them verbatim. And there's like about two or three, if you don't mind. So this comes from at lens.lens. And the question, Joey, is: have you observed shifts in your songwriting during the past couple of months? And if so, how so?
yeah. All my songwriting really involves my kids. I've not really done a whole lot of Calexico songwriting. I might sit at the piano over there or the guitar and play some ideas, but it's kind of the same. But early on, 2 months ago, is when we realized, okay, so we are gonna stay home, and so I just got out some paper, and after lunch, I would sit with the girls and say, let's just write some words down, some thoughts. You take a line, you take a line, and we wrote a couple songs,
Amazing.
and it was really fun. It's good collaboration.
The wheels on the bus go round and round. Is that a double CD you guys are putting out, or will that just be an EP? Have you guys decided that yet?
That's in the vault. That's the early years.
The demo. Let me look at another question. This is from at Kelly Hingley. What song of your own are you most looking forward to performing again?
Oh, good question. I have no idea. End of the world with you.
Say again. Say the title again.
End of the world with you. That's a good one. Um, I really haven't even thought about what to play. Gosh, I miss playing Father Mountain. That's a good one. I really love that song. I miss
I
I miss everybody. Like we have these little chat groups that, like the Iron and Wine Calexico has a chat group with all the band and crew, and uh, and then there's like a Calexico band and crew chat group, and those things have been really nurturing during these
mhm.
times. And then also, I mean, I'm writing individual people on Instagram just saying thank you. There was a friend of mine in Italy who got coronavirus pretty bad. His Instagram name is Stella Burns, and he's a musician we've met for many years. And so a couple times I just wanted to reach out to him, so I'd send him a song or a message. And I think those things help us as we're kind of in our own environment or in our own homes, however small they are, kind of feel like we're part of something bigger.
And not to get too inside here, but the girls and Nova, they're so incredible. Like some of my favorite parts to put together were hearing their conversations. And Nova was such a trooper because it was so loud when she was trying to talk. But this is a weird one, Joey. Do the girl how are the girls dealing with the kind of photograph of what Corona is? Like, have they? They're so fascinatingly positive and moving forward. This has made everyone assess. But when you're
Mhm.
young, you don't really go through that process. Do you feel like what is connecting with them in terms of like staying home and seeing dad a lot? What do you think they make of it?
Well, I kind of work in shifts, so if I'm gone for a month, I'm home for a month, you know? And so pretty deep, meaningful conversations. And we've talked about certain thoughts or fears or anxieties that they may have, or I've been open with stuff that I'm working on. They've been frustrated that they haven't been able to see a neighborhood friend, Bridget, who lives 2 doors down. They tried hanging out in the carport 6 feet apart, but it just not the same. So I think
Yeah.
we're planning to talk to her dad, and we're going to plan to do like a bike ride together, staying apart. We have some pretty wide streets, and they're not very busy here at all. But I think that most parents don't really know what's going on inside of the kids' minds and their feelings. I mean, some do, but I hear a lot of people saying like, "Hey, if they want to do FaceTime or if they want extra this or that, that's fine." And I usually agree with that, but I also feel like just like playing with them or just listening to them, or hey, you want to help me work on the trailer? Like, yeah. I mean, I find that my girls really want to have the one-on-one, and I have twin daughters. In case people are tuning in, they're 9 years old, and they are looking for their own connection. They do a lot of playing together, but doing it right now, and it's wonderful. But they need one-on-one, and they miss that.
Well, the other coda, and we'll have a couple of questions, and we'll leave you back to your day. But a lot of musicians now in this time have done at-home performances, whether it's the Knack doing My Sharona or Paul McCartney doing Hey Jude. What do you make of that? And what is that need? And have you felt a value in any of that kind of virtual performance piece for you?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching Kevin Morby working out with his nunchucks, and I
Yeah.
really like his personality a lot. I've written to him, and I think that we would hit it off, judging from his sense of humor. And Jason Isbell is another person that I really admire a lot, both as a musician and as a human being, and what he's going through right now. And I liked his piece that he did with Trevor Noah the other night. That was really great. Him and Amanda, people that I've never met in person, but that I know and sometimes send a note or something. But I think it's part of the process. I think it's good to connect. I was just talking to my friend Michael, who helps us out with all of the kind of social media and online stuff. And we sort of came to the same conclusion. Like at a certain point, it gets kind of tiring that there's a lot of live stuff. And I'm sure that's what some people are thinking now. But I feel like it's nice just to kind of to be there in the moment. I've really appreciated seeing Amos Lee kind of touch on some of his thoughts and feelings about the passing of Bill Withers and John Prine. And because Amos is a friend of mine, it was really nice just to kind of like see him, like talking. I loved that. That was great. So
Has
I
it?
think, yeah,
I'm sorry, Joey. Go on. I'm sorry. Sorry.
nah, I'm done.
Well, I was just going to say, and we'll wrap up in a moment or so, but I was also thinking about the audience. Athletes and athletics are saying, yeah, we can come back and we don't need a crowd. I mean, performance, it's existential. If you perform in front of no one, is it still a performance? Well, unless you're recording, has this made you think of that mass of people? Because I want to say one thing that I learned from you. When you go show to show, it really takes an incredibly sensitive part of you to differentiate audiences. I know that's easy. Audiences think, oh, they know I'm the New York audience, or they know I'm the Milan audience, but it's hard when you're staring from that stage. So that aside, has this audience-less time, like, what do you think of the audience's participation? Are you eager? This sounds crummy to ask, but are you eager to see them? I know the answer is yes, but has this made you think of seeing an audience in a different way, perhaps?
It just kind of reinforces what I've always felt like. It's part of, you know, it's part of this process, this creative process of, everyone is coming together, and we know, certain elements are going to come, and we're going to go somewhere, right? And those moments when you can see mistakes and see the human element, that's really important. We live for that, right? I got to see Tom Waits play once, and I was staring at his hands the whole time. And I felt like I could totally back up somebody like this. And I have. I mean, I've played with a lot of really interesting people, and I love those sort of characters that just ooze personality and are really eclectic. Because that's sort of my wheelhouse. I love things that are eclectic, but I audiences are super important, and I think that we'll come out of this at some point. It's going to take a while. No one knows how long, but we're going to come back. I think it's going to be stronger, the connection between audience, performer. And I'm also really, I want to try to document the next record in certain ways so that when we do release a record, there's an intimacy, there's stories. I think you're a great journalist and narrator and storyteller, and that is really important because sometimes the artists aren't always good at that. So I think it's kind of made me think about what to do in the future.
Well, I don't know if you've read, my rate is very high. It was just published on the front page of Variety. So we could talk about that offline. One fan question, then a goodbye. The last fan question, because it taps into, I think, what a lot of people are going through now. It's made them think, what was that other career that I should have done? In the sense of because all these tactile things have been taken away. Mine was be a member of Calexico. That's what I should have done. But if there's room, the last question, audience question, is from @Adam_Antios. What would Joey love to do if he wasn't a musician?
Wow. That's a really good question. I love art, kind of like Sam. I mean, a lot of days off, Sam and I and whoever else will go to a museum and get coffee and just look at art. I would love to paint. That would be great. That would be one thing if I didn't have to worry about anything. I also like, there's a lot of things I like, but I mean, I've thought about, I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get too.
No, well, we'll say this.
But there's a lot of different things. They're all creative, basically.
Can I ask a weird coda to that? My friends and I used to play this game. What would be the hard work job? And not that what you do is not hard work, but yours is so melded into your life, and that's another thing I took away from doing the show Assembly. What would be your day-to-day job? And mine would have been a taxi driver when there were taxis. I would have loved that ethos. Is there a job that, like, the grinding of the gears of it, like the day-to-day non-art side of it, really interests you? Like, what part of you isn't? You're such a poet in everything you do, but is there something where you your mind goes away and you can just do it?
I love that kind of work. So right now there's a lot of spring cleaning. I love getting out in the yard. I mean, that is such good medicine. And the same thing applies when I'm on tour. If I can get out and just walk or just get away, it really does help make for a better performance every night. And, believe me, I've thought about being a taxi driver, and I'm sure John might have had that thought as well. We might have shared that discussion at one point or another. I'm sure if I would be a really good teacher, I tried that. I had one bass student a long time ago. I was a really good dishwasher. I got to listen to a lot of Ry Cooder and Paris, Texas soundtrack. That was my last real job, right down here in Tucson at Bentley's Cafe on Speedway. That was my last job, and I loved it. I really did, and so anything like that, I'd be totally down. I worked at SST Records for a while, and I love all the components to make for putting out a record. So whether it's promotion or artwork, I love working with all the different artists that we've worked with, both Victor Gastelum and Ryan Trait. I love that collaborative side to working on a record. I love talking to the record labels and seeing what's going on and the management. I love checking in and brainstorming.
This is what it's like, fans of Joey and Calexico, being with Joey. The conversation, you don't track it, you just listen. And what's wonderful about when we engage in conversation, you are an exquisite listener. And on behalf of everyone who's been listening to Assembly and to the Instagram, please don't quit your day job, which is art and Calexico, because that's what you were meant to do. Before we say goodbye, just for the listeners watching on Instagram, thank you for being here. Follow the Assembly podcast on @HereTheAssembly, like here, the Assembly, and subscribe theassemblypodcast.com. Our next season is with David Cross. I followed David Cross for a week. And what's interesting is the musicians were funny and the funny guy was serious. So that's kind of the way these things work. Joey,
We love Cross. That's going to be a good one.
It is. I'm still working on it, and things have been delayed, as everyone. But as you say, you know, I always think about this when you have like a sick day. You can either fight it or you can let go and give into it. You know, and it's something is telling you to stop. And I'm not trying to diminish what we're going through as a world now, but there's something stopping us, and there's some value in that. No, there's a personal process we can undergo now. Is that too poetic to end on, or do you feel there's value in that?
I think everybody knows the answer, and those who are really struggling and are having a hard time, my heart goes out to you, and I just want to say you're not alone. When I was finishing my walk this morning, I saw my neighbor kind of sweeping, and he's got this big grin on his face because he has, for the first time in 2 months, he's able to see his granddaughter from LA. And he's also in the entertainment business. He's a mix engineer. And he was saying to me, he goes, I wonder if we'll look back, years from now at this moment and really enjoy the fact that, it brought us closer together. I've never seen so many people walking in my neighborhood, and I didn't know there were so many families here as well. They are. I mean, they're just, and it coincided with a really beautiful time of year, this spring in 2020 in Tucson. So I think we're pretty lucky in that regard. But I just want to say that I really sympathize with everyone, and I've had my dark thoughts, and everyone has. And just you're not alone. I just want to let you know we're all together.
One thing in putting this together as we say goodbye, I've lived with your voices for a long time, like the past year. Not the recording is the tip of the spear, and I don't mean that to pat myself on the back. I'm saying I've learned more from you the more I've listened to you, and this isn't some weird trick of having people listen to the show. I just think to live with voices, and even if you're not with them, they're with you, and as you say, like these voices in our life, we're not with them, but they can be with us. But that's up to us to make that effort. So I appreciate, even though this has been a social media effort, being with you again has annoyed me because I've missed you guys, and I felt very close to you in a week's time. But hopefully we could do this down the road just to say hello again. It would be a lot of fun. And thank you for being part of the Assembly, man. Thank you so much.
It's a great start to a wonderful podcast. So congratulations to you, Robert. I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed all of the moments, when we weren't recording, just hanging out, breaking bread, as it should be.
And it was officially the 32nd trillion podcast ever made. So we're right at the top of the pile. I'm only joking. I couldn't have asked for a better group. Thank you, my friend. My health to you and to your loved ones and to the girls and to Nova and to John when you guys next connect. And I look forward to hearing, because this tour, we've joked, like tours never end. This one with Sam and John and Seb and Jacob and Rob may never end, and it's not over, right? It's not over yet.
I think about them a lot, and I'm really grateful that we were able to kind of complete a pretty much what we had initially planned. We completed it all right up until Valentine's Day in Minneapolis. It's kind of amazing. And so it's kind of nice we were going to have, several months off and then tour in June 2020. And so I'm kind of excited to have this bigger break. And I'm sure we'll get to meet again when that happens on the East Coast. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to kind of get into rehearsal mode before that. And I'm sure there'll be so much happening, in preparation for all that, because everyone involved is so creative and so sensitive and has a lot to say.
As Hitchcock once was asked, "Are you working on a movie right now?" And he said, "I'm working on a movie every day of my life." So for fans of Calexico and Iron and Wine, they're working because every day is part of it. Thank you, man. All best to you, and we'll see you on the other. I'll see you on the other side of this, man. I really feel that way.
Keep in touch, and don't be a stranger. All right.
Okay, we'll see you, and follow us at Here the Assembly, theassemblypodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in, and a big wave as we say goodbye. Thank you, Consequence of Sound, and we'll see you again soon.
Consequence. You guys are amazing.
Amazing taste in podcasts you guys have. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Joey.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.